Hi, Set 1 Spark students. Welcome to Forensic Science. Today we're going to talk about fingerprints. I'm Miss Young. Now, before I introduce fingerprint, I would like to bring you through the thinking routines. First, identify and understand the problem. Second, list down the assumptions and variables. Third, select and organize the information and theory. 4, hypothesize, form the links and infer. 5, synthesize the solution. 6, verify the solution. And 7, present the solution. This is a series of steps I would like you to know and apply it whenever you encounter a science problem or your everyday problem. Now, what are fingerprints? Fingerprints is a means of identifying humans based on the classification of finger ridge pattern. Ridge is the raised portion of the skin. So when you press it down onto a paper, you'll see the pattern. So it is the ridge that create the pattern on the paper. Now, a fingerprint is an individual characteristic. No two fingers have yet been found to possess the identical ridge characteristics. So why fingerprint? Now, a fingerprint remains unchanged during an individual's lifetime. Fingerprints are a reproduction of friction skin ridges found on the palm side of your fingers and thumbs. They're designed by nature to provide our body with a firmer grasp and a resistance to slippage. Now, a visual inspection of the friction skin reveals a series of lines corresponding to the hills, which is the ridges, and valleys, which is the grooves. And these grooves are the depression that is in between the ridges. The shape and form of the skin ridges are what one sees as the black lines of an ink fingerprint impression. So when you make a thumbprint, you see all those lines. Those lines are made by the ridges. When a finger touches a surface, perspiration, your sweat, along with oil from other parts of the body is transferred onto the surface. So it leaves an impression of the finger ridge pattern. This print made by the deposit of oil or sweat, which is invisible to the naked eye, is commonly referred to as the latent fingerprint. So you will be able to see the latent fingerprint if you bend to a certain angle and it's very faint, but most of the time you won't be able to see it. That's why we have certain chemicals to make the latent fingerprint be visible to a naked eye. Right, this is a diagram of a cross-section of human skin. So this is where you will be able to see your fingerprint, the ridge and the grooves that are in between the ridge. Okay, and notice that it is connected to your sweat glands. Now, how do we identify fingerprints? So these are some of the basic features of the fingerprint. Now, these ridge characteristics are points of identification when comparing fingerprint. So the more points you can find in common, the better the match. So let's go through some of these basic ridge characteristics. First, the core. This is where it is the innermost turning point where the ridge form a loop. Notice? Yep, so this part is the core. And ending ridge is the end of it. Okay, like this is a short ridge, just a short line. Now for a bifurcation, it is the forking or the dividing of one line into two or more branches. So like this, one line divide into two or even 3 or 4, that is called bifurcation, forking. There's also one more thing that I also want you to learn, that is divergent. So if you have two lines, they used to run parallel and then they spread out. This is called divergent. Next is delta. It is the first ridge or part of a ridge nearest to the point of divergence of the two tight lines. So if you look at this, delta, and this point here is the delta because it is closest to the divergence, the x line and the y line divergent. It is closest to it, so this dot is the delta. So for example, in this case, if you have two diverging lines, x, x, y, y, so this one in the middle is the delta because it is the closest to the diverging lines, the divergence. This is a hook, this is an eye, dot or island, this. There's the crossover, that's the breach, this is the enclosure, the one that is enclosed inside, specialty. Now this is a part of a fingerprint. Let's see if we can identify some of the basic features of a fingerprint. So right in the middle, this is the core. It can be a straight line, it can be a U-turn, a loop back, but in this case it is a straight line. So this part is the core, okay, and this is your delta. Notice this is your divergence. Then all this are your recurring reaches. Okay, now let's move on. This is a typical thumbprint, a fingerprint. So you notice there's the fork here. One line branch into two, split into two branches. Then the reach end. Now all this become dotted because of your sweat pores. This is an independent reach. You see the sweat pores in between the lines. Right, and now let's move on. Type lines. Type lines are the innermost reach that bound the pattern area. So these reaches runs parallel, then diverge or separate, and surround or tend to surround the pattern area. So for example, your line A and your line B, they are your type lines. And this is your delta. Okay, a few more examples of your delta. So like I said, in between your type lines, the one that diverge out. You see, all these are your delta. Then bifurcation and trifurcation. It is dividing of a single reach into two branches. Trifurcation is 3 branches. This is a simple bifurcation, splitting into 2 branches. This is descending bifurcation because it's going downwards. Ascending, going upwards, trifurcation. This is the divergent lines. Okay. So yeah, divergent is quite different. Like I say, it is when the two reaches run parallel and then spread out. Now bridge is where they connect two parallel running reach together. This part is the bridge. Now after you have learned about the basic reach characteristics, I'm going to introduce to you the basic pattern, the general pattern of the fingerprints. There are 3 types. One is a loop, whoosh, and arch. Now for loops, loop is where the reach lines enter from one side of the pattern, curve around and exit from the same side of the pattern. Now this pattern area of the loop is surrounded by 2 diverging reaches known as the type line. Remember I showed you the type line A and B. Now there are 2 types of loops. One is radial. Radial is to the right. The radial has at least one ridge, okay, that starts from the thumb side, goes to the finger, and then curve back to the thumb. So if this is for the left hand, right? So this print, right? This print is on the paper. Okay, this is on the paper. So can you imagine your left hand is here? This is the thumb of your left hand. This is your middle index forefinger, right? So when they imprint onto it, you notice that the loop, this is on the right side, the thumb, back to the thumb side. This is on the paper. Whereas for ulnar loop is from the little finger, extend to the middle, and then curve back to the little finger. So little finger curves back to the little finger. So again, this is on paper. On paper, your little finger. Now, this is, like I told you before, it is for the left hand. For the right hand, okay, right hand, this would be my thumb, index, middle, forefinger, pinky. Okay, my drawing is very bad. Right hand. Right, so this is the thumb area. So if you have this print here, the loop starts from the thumb side back to the thumb side. This would be called the radial loop. Okay, if this is on the little finger side of your right hand, this would be called the ulnar loop. Okay, take note of the difference. That's why your left hand and your right hand matters. Alright, the second type of prints would be Wu, which is they have 4 distinct groups: plain, central pocket loop, double loop, and accidental. Now, common characteristic, they have tight lines and a minimum of 2 deltas. Okay, so first one, the plain and central pocket loop. Both have at least one ridge that makes a complete circuit. So for the plain groove, the circuit, the one ridge that is at least one ridge that is making a complete circuit may be spiral, oval, circular, or any variant of a circle. And then when you draw an imaginary line between the 2 deltas, they must touch or cross at least one of the recurring ridges within the inner pattern area. So this is all your recurring inner pattern, recurring ridge, right? And then this is the delta, and you notice when they draw a line, a connecting line, he actually cut across one of the recurring ridges. So this is a plain groove. As for the central pocket loop, right, this is all the recurring ridges, okay, until here. Yeah, no more. Then this is your 2 delta. When you draw the connecting lines, you notice it doesn't cut, it doesn't touch any of the recurring ridge. So this is a central pocket loop. Next, you have double loop. Double loops are actually 2 loops combined, or you can see an S-shaped loop. So you have a loop here, and you have another loop here, double loop. Or yeah, you can see a loop here. Notice this is another loop, so it's like an S shape. As for accidental, it has 2 or more patterns, not including the plain arch. Plain arch, I will talk about it later. So if you look here, okay, you have a loop, another loop here, and you have 2 or more delta. So there's two or more patterns, you see. So this is called accidental. You are not able to classify them under the plain woof or the central pocket loop or the double loop. So this would be accidental. Okay, the third type of patterns is arch. Now arch, there are two types, plain arch and tented arch. Now the arch, right, in general, the breeches enter from one side and leaves at the other side. So they will go up and then come down, go from the other side. There will be no type lines, okay, because there's no loop. You won't find deltas, you won't find the chords. So if you look at this is called the tented sharp or tented arch. Okay, so you notice this part is like pointing upward, the center rise. So this is called a tented arch. It's still an arch, but in the middle is like there's a sharp pointed. So this is called a tented arch. For plain arch, it's just plain. Right, after learning some basics about the fingerprint, the breeches characteristic, I have a few fingerprints for you to practice. Try and observe them. These belong to the right hand, the prints that are printed out by the right hand. So pause the video, observe the prints, and come back to the video and we'll discuss the answers. Okay, now for A, if this is the print that is produced by the right hand, you would notice that it actually loops to the little finger. So this would be the ulnar loop. As for B, because it's in loop to the opposite direction, it will be the radial loop. It loops towards the thumb, right, the thumb side. As for C, easy, can recognize, is the plain arch, simple arch. As for D, again, you should be able to observe the arch up and down and this part that is pointing upwards. So this is the tented arch. Alright, let's move on. Okay, I have 4 more fingerprints here. Okay, pause the video, spend some time, observe them, observe the pattern before we come back to the video and we'll go through the answers. Right, the first one is obviously a woof, right? But which type? Is it the plain central pocket loop or accidental or the double loop? If you look at the recurring reaches, and where's the delta? The delta is here and here. So you will notice that when you draw a line, it cuts across the recurring reaches. So this is a plain woof. The next one, it is also a woof, but if you look at it, right, up to here, this is the recurring reach, and the delta here to here, nope, it doesn't cut across the recurring reaches, so this is a central pocket loop. As for the next one, is quite obvious, right? You can see one loop here, another loop here. So this is the double loop woof. And the last one, what do you think? Yes, it is the accidental woof. You can see from there's the woof, there's the loop. The pattern a bit hard to see, right? Yeah, so you cannot classify, a bit hard to classify them into plain, central, or the double loop. So yeah, this is the accidental woof. Okay, we come to our last practice. There is this case study. Okay, there's this diary that is being stolen and replaced by a fake one, and the only fingerprint that's left behind by the thief on the fake diary is this a bit partial one. It's not complete. Usually when you leave fingerprint, you don't get to leave the whole the whole fingerprint. So the police have four suspects: one KJ, Ivan, Lisa, and Charlie. So pause the video and study the patterns on the crime scene fingerprint that is being found, and before you come back here and tell me who is the criminal. Right. Let's study. Okay, I'll try to eliminate the more obvious one. The crime scene fingerprint is definitely not a tented arch, so it's not Ivan. It's definitely not the Una or Radial Loop. Okay, this looks like a wolf to me. KJ is a double loop. Lisa is an accidental wolf. So when you look at the crime scene, it doesn't. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where's the delta. So you have one delta here, two delta here, and then you have a loop here and a loop here, right? This one delta, delta, loop, loop. Do you get Lisa as the answer? Right, you can see the tight lines, but KJ is not that obvious. Yes, so the answer is Lisa. Okay, we have come to an end of the study on fingerprint. I hope you have enjoyed and learned the various features characteristic of the fingerprint.